welcome to this next episode of the RT3 Podcast. I'm Ryan Groth, your host, and we are really excited to have this episode. This episode is sponsored by NRP and Pointivo. And so this episode is all about the Pointivo technology. So the NRP Group, National Roofing Partners, they are the exclusive provider of Pointivo, which is a remote drone inspection process with artificial intelligence technology to help commercial roofing contractors grow their business. So we have 3 special Pointivo users who are also somewhat involved, I don't know to what degree, with the NRP network. So I'm really excited to hear just some innovators today. We have 3 contractors, I'll introduce them shortly. So they're gonna share and break down how they're using it, why they're using it, the value of it, what the future looks like, how other industry contractors like yourself listening can start to embrace it too. So they've paved the way. So I'm really excited to interview them and get out your notebook. You're ready to start to take some notes and implement this. So let's go ahead and introduce everyone here. So we have John Kiesel and Company with Ryan and Kerrick with Division 7, Jeremy Dickman with Prim Roofing, and Brad Belden with Belden Roofing, who's also an RT3 board member and on the podcast. So I'll start with John and Company here with Division 7. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and how long you've been using the technology, and then we'll go to Jeremy, then Brad.
Well, thank you, Ryan. It's John Kiesel, president of Division 7 Roofing. We've started the drone program about a year ago, and through our drone pilot experience level, we were ready to get started rocking and rolling. And through the introduction to NRP and Pointivo, it really put us on a fast track to implement a great deliverable.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. And you're accompanied by a couple of your integrators and actual operators with the drones at Division 7 as well.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, so my name is Ryan, resides. I kind of bridge the gap between the guy who knows all the nitty gritties there is to about flying the drone and photogrammetry, as we call it, Mr. Kerrick back there, and the roofing business operations. So that's kind of where I fit into the puzzle. And do you want to introduce yourself, Kerrick? He's the real star of it all back here.
Kerrick Willis. I'm actually a Part 61 pilot, which means I'm a commercial pilot. So I've got my commercial pilot license for helicopters and airplanes. I've got a little bit of an extensive background in aviation, and I've been flying drones now for about 2.5 years. I went on a real deep dive in photogrammetry about 2 years ago, which is essentially just measuring from photographs.
Awesome. Well, thanks for jumping on and sharing y'all's expertise and progress with the technology. And so we'll circle back with you in a couple of minutes. Jeremy, welcome. Will you introduce yourself, talk a little bit about your length of use of the technology as well?
Yes, I'm based in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm the CEO of Apollo Prim, and I'm talking on behalf of Prim Roofing today. We've been using the technology for the last couple of years, more or less, and then we became NRP members and RT3 members probably within the last 12 to 18 months. Really interested in it, I think, for the long term, more on the asset management side than I think the takeoff estimating side. But it's the marriage of the software and the drone technology, I think, is what makes it useful and practical. So that's where we see the most value.
Okay, cool. Looking forward to digging in with you. And Brad?
So Brad Belden, Chief Culture Officer of Belden Roofing Company. And we've been using the technology for a little bit less than a year. But we have our own drone pilot as well, and we are accustomed to the drone technology and infrared technology that's out there in the marketplace.
Awesome. So lots to cover here. I think that before we get into getting too geeked out, which I'm looking forward to hearing Kerrick talk about some of the details there. From a business owner standpoint, what's the main value? And let's talk numbers and savings and ROI. What have you guys seen the value of the technology just for your business? Kind of talk about your old way and then how this has made a huge difference, because I think that it sounds great, but what's the point of investing and getting involved and paying for it if there's not a fast return? Can you guys speak to that? Because there's still a degree of physically going out and seeing the buildings but using the drone. So I'd like to hear your guys' perspective on some of the business case, the savings, and the ROI of using the technology. If you guys could speak to that, probably the same order, John and company, Jeremy and Brad.
Yeah, sure. A lot of the ROI is actually an intangible when it comes to quality. When you're pricing a project and seeing real imagery of the roofing project versus a guy going out there taking random pictures and not really giving you the complete vision of a job site. So it's hard to put a number on a lot of the values that are, like I said, intangible from a hard cost perspective. We feel that we're cutting our man hours in half from sending a drone out to bring us back a takeoff sheet that's ready to go into the estimator's hands. From a sales perspective, providing clients with a differentiator. If we feel that a drone report and imagery separates us from our competition, that again is another semi-intangible, but the right client that sees this beautiful report and just loves the technology and views you as a step above the rest and just not a bread and butter type of roofing contractor could put a significant job in your hand.
Yeah, so it's pretty common for a commercial roofer to take pictures, at least the ones that are doing a decent job. They're taking pictures, they're describing deficiencies, they have a report, it's relatively in-depth. Some don't do much of any of that, but you feel like this has taken things up another level with having just another quality of imagery and cost savings.
Oh, absolutely. It's bringing the job to life. It's an interactive experience that takes it from a flat paper to a life-size model.
Awesome. Very cool. Thanks for sharing that. So yeah, you're seeing an ROI on sales and then lowering costs and differentiation as a trusted advisor. Cool. Thanks for sharing that. Jeremy, can you speak a little bit to that kind of ROI and cost savings as well, if it's similar, or maybe a story or two of how you've seen that in play?
Yeah, we're obviously different in that we don't own the drones. We use the network. So for us, we're not using it unless we've sold it. So the ROI is pretty much unlimited. It is definitely a differentiator. It allows us to kind of set us apart from the competition. We think it helps us sell, though, and it helps us become a partner over the long term. What we like is the repeatability of it. So if we say, hey, customer, we'll do an image in year 1 and an image in year 2 and 3, 4. Now you've got sort of a history and a timeline to that building that then locks them into you to some degree, right? There's not somebody else. They can't get that same image from that same day from Point Tivo that they can from us. So that's really what we're looking at it as. We're looking at it as a long-term relationship builder, especially with manufacturing facilities who are very attuned to planned obsolescence. And so if we can kind of help show them how their asset is aging from a roof perspective, in addition to some observations with a trained inspection team, we think we can just absolutely separate us. So it's a completely different scenario for us, but ROI for right now is unlimited for us.
So you're saying you're using the technology once the job's been sold, like you use it like after the fact, after you've sold it?
Yeah, so from an inspection perspective, hey, we can do our normal inspection, we can do a drone inspection in addition, we can include the drone in with our typical inspection. So yeah, it's before we even contact Point Two, it's a sold opportunity. We're not using it on the front end. We've also had some where we've done an IR scan afterwards, or as part of the sales process. Basically, we get a fee for that. We're not doing it for free, and we're not making money necessarily, but we're not. It's not a loss. And so you can show the owner, hey, you may not think you need a roof, but look at this thermography report, and look at how much wet or insulation you have. So we found it's been very beneficial from there, because it's much different when you're at a elevation than if you're right on the rooftop with the thermography equipment. So that's how we're typically using it. And then, like I said, the idea is that you get this kind of repeatability over a period of time. It's more of a maintenance program than, or we bring it into the maintenance program so that we can kind of sell this. We're taking care of the asset for the long term.
Yeah, and I think just being consultative on their asset is first a mindset that not a lot of commercial roofers are taking in general. Like, they need to take that more often. But you're saying with that, you have much more evidence, so the technology just makes it easier to advise and kind of warn them and be proactive, versus trying to convince them, or versus them saying, man, it's really leaking really bad now it's time to do something. You're helping them be intelligent on a rate. Like, once you get on there and you do an initial repair or a partial tear off or partial replacement, you're using the technology over and over again, year over year, with updated inspections.
That's the sell, that's the plan. And until you collect the data, you don't really know what you can tell people. But I mean, that's absolutely the sell, and I think people buy into that. So, I mean, the sky's the limit in the future, but until we get the imagery, there's not much you can do.
Right. Brad, do you want to speak to a little bit of your just experience and how you're using it, which is maybe similar or different to Prim and Division 7 here?
Ours is the polar opposite of Jeremy's. We're licensed in 45 states. We've spent the last 30 years getting licensed or registered, depending on what the state requires. And so our use of the product, the immediate ROI is that the flight itself is cheaper than the air flight. Mm-hmm. So everything on top of that is a savings to us. The hotel room, the rental car, finding a ladder, having our commercial sales rep away from the office or away from bidding. So we think of it as a 75%, roughly 75% savings over what it costs us to send somebody out to a potential job site.
Not to mention the time, right, of taking, a salary, trusted commercial sales professional, right? They could do much of these conversations on Zoom, on a meeting or Google Meet, and then send an inspection process.
Well, and you're talking at a minimum 2 days loss, going and coming back, that we've lost them from doing anything else. It's almost windshield time. And even though they're sitting on a plane, they're not as productive. But having the data sent to us within days gives us adequate time to prepare a bid, and as both have mentioned, the presentation allows us to give a presentation that's quite different than what customers normally see.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So can you guys speak to just a little bit more about the reporting itself? Like, artificial intelligence obviously is a very, popular thing right now, but what does that even mean with regards to drone inspections? Like, what does the artificial intelligence do? Can we guys speak to that a little bit more, that is unique to the technology? And then I'd love to get into some of the actual operation, like Division 7. I'd love to learn a little bit more about what you guys are doing in-house. So maybe Jeremy and Brad, can you guys speak to the report, and what does the artificial intelligence function actually even mean? What does that mean to the customer, the prospective buyer, or the client?
Well, I guess I'm going to be different than Jeremy on this one too, based on his previous comment. We're using the AI. Our opportunities are mainly re-roofing, so ours is not the maintenance side. So the AI that we're picking up on are the measurements that we need of the rooftop equipment and the penetrations that we could not normally get from anything else. So we're using that data completely differently than you would normally use that data, or how either one of them might be feeding into their systems. And what it does is, yes, can we download the imagery from Google? Absolutely. But we have no idea whether or not they've added a chiller on the roof. We have no idea whether they've added 6 mechanical units on the roof. You can get some really good detailed imagery of what's there the day of the flight, and it can save you a ton of money on your bid. The only thing we can't do is take a core cut, and I'm sure that that's somewhere down the road. Yeah, somebody's going to figure out how to do that.
So how are you getting the core cut done?
In most instances, the consultant or the owner has provided us that data. Actually, in every instance so far that we've used it on, we've been provided that data.
Got it. So you're able to come up with the lowest cost to install because of the drone, where you wouldn't with any other technology as detailed. And
No, it's our lowest cost to deliver a bid.
Mm-hmm.
That's our ROI.
Got it. Cool. Thanks for sharing that. So Jeremy, can you appreciate that, Brad? How is the AI? What does that even mean for you?
So it's not technically AI. I don't want people to think it's AI necessarily. It's machine learning. So it gets better and better and better the more you use it and the more other people use it. So it gets smarter, but it's not artificial intelligence per se. And I think that's the cool thing about it is if there's more people in the network and there's more people using technology, and over a period of time, it's going to just get better and better and better and more refined. I talked to Kyle at Pointivo today about some stuff, but the ability for them to use their kind of 3D imagery over multi-years in terms of from us, from a maintenance perspective, is you can't get that with anything else. Unless you're part of the DoD or the CIA. I mean, with satellites that can do this stuff with the same ability, this is really the only thing that can kind of do this. And like Brad said, it's very timely. Google Earth, who knows when the last image was taken, right? Eagle View is kind of similar in a different way on the residential side, but those images may be 10 years old, So and the resolution is important, especially if we use it as an inspection tool. But it's a pretty slick interface that the customer sees. So I do think it is different. It doesn't look like anything else. So that's what I see. It's going to get better and better and better.
So as there's more using it, how would it get better though with the machine? What is it learning?
So it starts to understand. Okay, well these pixels are this and they're that, and then okay, well that guy says this is ponding water, and this guy says this is not. And I guess as an example, there's some trash that comes in right now that you have to kind of clean out. It'll say, well, this is a gravel surface built up roof, or this is extreme weathering. Well, it's just a different color rock or whatever, because we went up there and looked at it. So as you kind of teach it and train it, it'll kind of learn that as you go.
I see. So the more really good roofers are feeding the data, the corrections and what it really is, it'll learn more and more, and it'll require less expertise to fulfill the accuracy of what the inspection is coming up with, so that you can be accurate. Does that sound right?
That's my understanding. I mean, I'm not the tech guy, but yeah, that's what it definitely appears to be doing.
It sounds pretty technical.
It's just a roofer.
I'm just a roofer.
You're doing good. All right. Well, thanks for sharing that. So you guys at Division 7, I'd like to hear, kind of in contrast with Brad and Jeremy, some of the value for you in more detail, but then just hearing how you guys have set up Kerrick, into the game. And I think that's super cool. And why did you guys go all in? I mean, in a year, you all have really accelerated and gone all in here. It seems to be something you're really excited about, doing something nobody else is doing. You're actually doing the first kind of program with NRP specifically. So let's just talk about that. Talk a little bit about the answer the same question as Brad and Jeremy with regards to the value for you and how you're using it in more detail, and then the in-house staffing.
Yeah, so when Kerrick joined our team and presented us with 3D modeling that he was rendering on a different software program, and I was just fascinated with it and saw the value right away. Not really sure what we were going to do with it, but I just knew that it was super cool, and it was something worth pursuing all in. And we set him up with a computer he needed to process all the data, the drone, anything he needed, we gave him, and he was able to flourish in R&D and deep dive into things, and gave him the time to do that. Through those experiences, we were introduced to Pointivo, and that's really smoothed out a lot of the problems we experienced with data collecting and transferring of the imagery with large files, and giving us a consistent deliverable that we talked about as we were working with it. Prior to our engagement with Pointivo, we were just all over the place with different types of presentations and different models, and they've really made that piece work for us really well. And basically at this point we have a really expensive computer and subscriptions to different software processing programs that are unfortunately just part of the expense to get to where we are today. But like you said, Kerrick and Ryan can speak to some of the other highlights whenever you want to go into some of the particulars.
Yeah, I'd love to hear some of the particulars about how you guys have done and implemented it in the way you have. Can you guys kind of speak to a typical process? Like, hey, we got an opportunity, or we generated, or it came inbound. What do we do? Let's just kind of lay it out without giving us the full manual here. But yeah, what do you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So the drone technology comes into play for us very early on. Kerrick and I take care of pretty much all the takeoffs. So, with every takeoff we do, there's going to be some sort of drone imagery. Depending on the opportunity and, the value of it and how complicated the project is, we will use it in different ways, whether it's something as easy as a still shot that looks really nice on a proposal, or if it's something like a 300,000 square foot monster with, tons of penetrations that we just know we need some backup on. And we're going to do, a 3D model with a lot of inspection tools to augment what we already have going on. We'll get that imagery and bring it back here. And Kerrick does his magic in his office with a very expensive computer. And then when it's time to sit down with the estimate, you have Google Earth, you have on-roof imagery from a hand camera, you have thousands of photos from the air if we choose to use those inspection tools. So there's really nothing that we don't see. So that's kind of, if you're looking at it from a re-roof perspective, kind of how we put that into play.
So Kerrick, this you're at your computer, and so what's your process to make this magic happen, and what's some of the outcomes as a result?
Well, I use a photogrammetry software. There's a bunch out there. There's a bunch of different ones. We just happen to like 4D. Essentially, I'm taking in all these photos and processing them. There's different algorithms that's used within the program to set it up in a certain way and run it. Part of the big question entering into a job is, what do you want to see? What level of detail? How much clarity? Because as Ryan said, we get into a 300,000 square foot project that's extremely complex, and I may need to be 20 feet off the roof. And so he has images that are very low, and he can see every penetration that's up there from every side if necessary. And then we're able to produce orthos, which is like a stitched together picture, essentially like Google Earth is an ortho mosaic of the entire world on a global scale, and then that's all measurable. So again, like Jeremy's saying, long term is where I really see the benefit, because you're able to go out and capture once and you have all the data you need. And unless that building's re-roofed or something's massively changed and we want to approach it the next year, if it's just for budgetary reasons, there's not the need to recollect all the data or to recheck or remeasure anything. It's all there and it's saved.
Right. Yeah. So the end user is receiving information that you guys have that nobody else has provided. So that naturally just creates more of a trusted advisor relationship. then I'm sure it's helping you guys secure more work. And maybe some of them will probably use that data to get someone else to do it cheaper. Hopefully not, but you guys are certainly, I like that you don't have to go back again and again, and you could just, that's really a big saver. So yeah, I mean, it's really cool how dynamic this is. And I feel like as an industry, do you guys have any opinions on how early do you guys think are you with adopting this compared to the rest of the industry? I mean, are you seeing that a lot of the market, in your market, a lot of your competitors are just like missing the boat here? And you feel like you're really early? And if so, just kind of speak to the kind of company that ought to get into this. Like they should all be fully commercial, or even if it's maintenance or re-roof, every type of company should get involved. I'm just kind of curious, like the state of the industry with the technology, and then the future for it. So I'm glad that you guys are innovators, but the end users, the listeners of this podcast are the roofing industry, many of which are growth minded, and I'm sure very anxious to probably get involved after hearing it. What do you guys think about just the industry at large in terms of them adopting this type of technology? And then what do you hope the future of it could look like for y'all? Maybe we could start with Division 7 and then Brad and Jeremy.
Yeah, so we definitely feel like in our market that we're way ahead of the curve when it comes to technology and integration of technology, from using a roof cutter when they first came out, when guys were out there swinging axes, to flying a drone in the air versus a guy out there with maybe out there with Polaroids, just not real sure. But when we talk to our clients and we present them with this reporting power and this interactive, it blows their minds away. And it's a lot like kids in a candy shop. When you sit down with it, they just want more. They just want more and more of it. And the types of roofing contractors that should pursue something like this would be a contractor that has all the other moving parts working well as well. You can't pull off technology. You can't pull off the simpler things like installing a great roof or providing great service. You have to. This is a bolt-on to doing other things right.
Yeah, it's a great comment there. I would agree 100%. As a coach and consultant, people who implement technology, they have to do the fundamentals right, have a good team, have a good vision, a good focus, and playing the game the right way, or else it's just going to expose their inability to execute anything, to have a new shiny toy. So very cool. Thanks for that comment there, and good work on taking a ton of action here. Brad, I want to speak to just your opinion and your feel for the technology and its use in kind of your space, and then the future of it and things like that.
So I'd echo his comments as well. I think that we're a leader in our marketplace with implementing technology, but we learned a long time ago that what we did yesterday is never good enough. So we're constantly looking for what's that next thing that makes us get better or helps us get better. I think though that when there's technology down the road, I see consultants using it, I see building owners using it before we ever get there. I think that they're going to use it to their advantage and to just, to use that intelligence to decide whether or not what they need to do, and not just rely on us. And so I think that there's going to be a blend somewhere down the road on this data. And I think that those that adopt it now will have a greater edge on everybody else who hasn't. And, at the end of the day, we sell a commodity product, and the only difference really is our people and the policies and the procedures that we put in place to ensure that the delivery of that product exceeds expectations and exceeds manufacturer's requirements. Other than that, we're still selling a roof. And so there's a lot of parts and pieces that go into play into ensuring that customer gets what they're paying for. And today I posted a picture on LinkedIn where somebody used 3-tab shingles to flash in a roof curb. In 40 plus years of being in the roofing business, I have never seen that And when they called me from the job site, I'm like, you've got to take a picture. You must be looking at it wrong, right? I mean, it's every day we're up against people who call themselves roofing contractors because they have a piece of paper that they hand the customer that says it's a contract. Really, at the end of the day, a roofing contractor's job is to keep water out of the customer's building. And how you do that, and using this technology will allow us to find things that we wouldn't anticipate. We might find a crack in the wall that we weren't even looking at. And it allows us to look at the building from different angles, different aspects. And it's really hard when you're up on the roof. Your vision is it's peripheral, and you can only see so many things. This technology allows you to look down on it from the 20 feet, 1,000 feet, whatever it is, and view it from a different perspective, and allows you to properly analyze it and develop a game plan to install a good roofing system.
Love it. Thanks, Brad. Appreciate it. Jeremy?
Yeah, sure. I think we're late to the party on from a drone perspective. I mean, I always saw drones years ago in the roofing business before I even got into the contracting side, and I'm like, okay, you take a picture from 30 feet off the roof, whatever. I think what's really changed the game is the software side, and also the ability to store the imagery. I think imagery is, you see what people are doing with photo ID and all that kind of, Apple does, and the visual technology to kind of capture facial recognition. I mean, that's facial recognition, yes, but it's also in the analyzing images, and I think that is still at the bleeding edge. I think there's a tremendous amount more that can be done there. I agree with Brad that our customers are going to eventually get into this space, and I think the arms race, so to speak, is going to be, well, who's got the images and who can compare the images to previous images. You can't go back in time and take the same type of image you've got today. So those guys who can get in early with the imagery and create the database of sorts to stand the game. I don't think drones are the long-term solution for this technology. I think there's applications either with satellites or airplanes or other things that can do more buildings at once, so that you can have a bigger library more cost effectively. I think one of the limiting factors is drone in terms of the cost.
That's also some of the value of it, because it's so current versus,
No, there's benefit to it. There's benefit to it, absolutely. But I do think, at some point somebody's going to find a way to scale the actual imagery collection that kind of catapult us way beyond where it is.
I wonder if they could even use like Eagle View data and then use the software and instead of relying on the drone or something. So
Eagle View has a patent on measuring from an airplane, so there are certain limitations, but and I think they do it differently. I mean, they use kind of Cessnas, I think, but it's certainly possible. If you have the images to compare, the software should be able to compare it regardless of the source, so to speak.
Right. Well, Brad's got a Belden plane. He's just going to go all over Texas and capture all the images. That's coming up next, now that you brought it up. So, well, cool. Well, guys,
the airline industry is in deep, is in trouble. Strap these things on there. So,
yeah. Well, guys, this has been great. I think, just for the industry to hear, this might be the first or second time they've heard about it, but to hear innovators in their markets and using it, implementing it, taking a ton of time and energy to implement this regularly on every deal or with every building you guys are servicing, speaks volumes to the future. And you guys are, many of you are involved with RT3. I think Jeremy, you're a member. Brad, you're a member. Are you guys members of Division 7 of RT3? Yep.
Yes, sir. Sure.
Of course, yeah. So, you guys, if contractors, if you're not using this, you got to get with NRP. So Daryl Kratzer, I'm sure, will gladly walk you through some of the options. And I think if you're a member of the NRP network, you have a better price than if you're not. But they have an exclusive on this, and so it's very cool to hear how you guys are using it. Very sophisticated stuff. that's just going to become normal, right? It's just going to become commonplace eventually. But we all know we got to strike early and be that early adopter. And it's a little bit painful at times to come up with your own cost and time and money to work it out, but you guys will have first impact. And so very cool. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for being on, guys. Any last words to any listeners just with relation to Pointivo and NRP and just innovation in general? Anybody want to say anything else?
It's worth the
Well,
investment.
Ryan, you being a sales. So Ryan, you're transforming the industry through sales, correct?
Yes, sir.
One of the interesting concepts that we've kind of coined is clover droning. So when we send out our drone to look at a project site or site we have a specific interest in, we actually make sure we catch images of buildings surrounding the building that's our target, to canvas the area to bring to people's attention that they may have a roof issue as well. So it's definitely a sales tool as well, just from a cold calling perspective.
Love it. I heard somebody tell me they went and rented a helicopter and they were just doing what's called dropping pins. And they would just go on their phone and they would drop a pin if they saw an old roof. And this would be a little bit safer and maybe cost-effective way of doing that, probably.
And more accurate.
More accurate too. You drop a pin and it's like 200 yards away. That's cool. Thanks for sharing that. I like that. It's appreciate you sharing that one. Good. Brad, you were saying?
I said it's more accurate.
Yes. Well, before that, it's worth the investment. I think I heard you
It's
share.
worth the investment, yes.
Yeah, for sure. Cool.
The only thing I would add is I think, all three of us have some different perspectives. I mean, if you know what you want and what your customers want, this can do a lot of things. It's not just a one thing, one size fits all application or technology. So as long as you understand what your customer wants, you can probably find a way to make it fit somewhere in your overall investment.
Good. And in order to do that, you gotta be service oriented and ask questions, right? And that's a big part of sales. And this is good. I'm glad to hear some innovators jump on and share. I really appreciate it. And NRP Pointivo, you guys, I'm sure we'll be sharing this content out, and you guys will have a lot of opportunity to help some contractors adopt this technology. So thank you all very, very much, and I appreciate your participation today.
All right, thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan.
Ryan,